Good morning, friends. My name is Kerry Starr, and I have the privilege of teaching in the School of Business and serving as the faculty advisor for our Enactus team. You heard in our scripture reading earlier that Jesus said to his disciples that we are to carry on his work, that we will do, this is crazy, as Perry just told us, that we will do even greater things than him. This morning, you're going to have the opportunity to hear some of the great things that God is doing through a number of our students here at Roberts. Now, you're going to hear from 5 individuals, but the work they're going to be talking about has been done by over 100 of our students here at Roberts. So I want to take a moment. If you have been involved in any Enactus project this year, will you please stand where you are? Please stand if you were involved in Elevate, Escalate, Full Circle, Restore, Hawk Swap. Thank you so much for contributing, for your service, for leaving the country, or at least leaving your comfort zone to work with those in need. You're going to see, as I said, 5 people up here. But so much goes on behind the scenes. Work is done by students all across campus, but we're really well supported. I want to personally thank Greg Ross and Kathleen Ranowitz, who work with me in the School of Business. Without them, all the details and planning and programming that have to take place wouldn't happen. We get incredible support by our administration, particularly the Office of Advancement and Risk Management. When you're leaving the country and you're working with at-risk youth, there are a lot of things that need to happen behind the scenes to make sure people are safe, to make sure things are funded properly. So I'm so thankful for the many people behind the scenes. I'm thankful for support, too, from my husband, Dr. Irv Starr, in the School of Business, and Dr. Bovee from the School of Business for continuing to support and encourage and believe in what our students are doing, not just in the School of Business, but all across campus. It's pretty awesome that this is something that we actually have students from 24 different majors involved in Enactus, which is awesome. Also, behind the scenes, for the actual presentation that you are going to hear, the script was written by Kate Hill and Emily Betts. The media that you're going to see on the screen was created by Leah Lennon, Anna Ross, and Abby Ross. And though they aren't on the stage today, they're a key part to our presenters being as excellent as they are. We actually have 2 student alternates who learn the lines, come to rehearsals, travel with us to competition. Should there be an emergency, someone wakes up and they've lost their voice, just as you would have an understudy in any kind of production. So I also want to appreciate our alternates, Sean Ledoux and Miranda Leo. The last thing I want to share, I mentioned that Enactus is an opportunity available to students from all different majors. Nothing demonstrates that more than our leadership. And it's my privilege to announce for the first time publicly who our student president and vice president for our Enactus team will be next year. Neither of them are from the School of Business. Next year's vice president will be Kenzie Witter, and our president will be Leah Lennon. So it takes a great variety of perspectives to make what you're about to hear take place. If you are intrigued, interested, inspired by what you see today, for the folks over here, come to Roberts. For all the rest of you, tonight we have our weekly Enactus event. And tonight we're actually going to be sharing who all the rest of our student leaders are. And we actually have 2 unfilled positions that are available to anyone in the student body. So come tonight, find out what those are, find out what we're about. We meet at 8 o'clock in Hastings 117. So what you're about to see is our competition presentation, which might sound a little strange. That's always confusing to people. How do you compete at helping people, at serving? It seems so counterculture, especially in our Christian culture, and when we read scripture that says, to do your good deeds in private and not let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. So this is not about us bragging about us being super Christians. This is us having accountability to serve the Lord with excellence, as we're called to do. Enactus is actually an international organization. It's not religiously affiliated in any way. It is in 40 countries around the world and over 400 college campuses of all different sizes across the United States of America. It's college students coming together, using the skills that they learn in the classroom, and then putting them into work in the world to make it better. Competition is a chance for us to prove that we're actually achieving results by the projects our students design and execute. So it's accountability for us to make sure that what we say we're doing is what we're actually doing. And that when we say we're helping people, it's not just to make us feel good, but it's because their lives are changed as a result of the work that we do. And we are honored and humbled that our team has a legacy now of achieving well at competition. The team you're about to see just were named regional champions in Philadelphia 3 weeks ago now. And next month they'll travel to Kansas City to compete at the national level. So all those of you who stood up who have helped in projects, if you want to travel with us to Kansas City, you are invited. So come tonight to find out greater details about that as well. So without further ado, I would like to officially introduce the Enactus Presentation team from Roberts Wesleyan College.
Alexander the Great was mentored by Aristotle.
Plato was mentored by Socrates.
Warren Buffett was mentored by Benjamin Graham.
And Luke Skywalker was mentored by Obi-Wan Kenobi.
We are the Enactus team from Roberts Wesleyan College, a school of 1,000 undergraduate students just outside the city of Rochester, New York.
Our team has a commitment to transforming lives through mentoring. Each of us has an Enactus alumni who mentors us throughout the year.
In a study by Forbes magazine, mentoring was shown to increase an entrepreneur's revenue by an average of 106%.
And employees who received mentoring were 5 times more likely to be promoted than those who didn't have mentors.
Just imagine what this kind of coaching can do for a struggling community and each of its members.
This year, we focused on 7 projects strategically designed to create an integrated project portfolio.
From kindergarteners to young adults, from job readiness to job creation, all of our initiatives build on and support one another.
Our project portfolio targets UN Global Goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities.
Today we'll share how projects Escalate, Elevate, and El Puente have enabled children and young adults to reach a level of confidence that improves their communities.
These 3 projects span 2 countries and cities that have the same needs: Huehuetenango, Guatemala, and Rochester, New York.
These 2 communities are facing similar obstacles. They're fighting for better education, more sustainable work, and economic stability.
By empowering teens to mentor their friends across the street and across the ocean, we enable them to discover their potential.
We believe in the power of mentoring to bring sustainable change to the communities of Rochester, New York, and Huehuetenango, Guatemala.
One of the most significant ways we bring change to these communities is through providing quality education, addressing UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4.
According to our needs assessment, 68% of families in Rochester with kids under the age of 18 are headed by single parents.
Rochester also has one of the lowest high school graduation rates in the U.S., at only 52% compared to 80% in New York State.
We decided to combat this cyclical problem at its roots. In our research, we learned that a positive early school experience increases a student's probability to graduate by 25%.
Informed by this data, a group of dedicated Enactus students launched Project Escalate. Our target audience, little munchkins.
And for those of you who don't like looking at people as tiny little donut holes, let me clarify. We started with kindergartners.
We demonstrate to the kids ways they can be a helper at home, at school, and in their communities through a variety of hands-on activities. Over the course of 5 weeks, Robert's Enactus members build relationships through teaching these kids in small groups.
Each Enactus member mentors 4 to 5 kindergartners week after week to develop a strong emotional connection and a sense of trust.
During our research phase of this project, we discovered an average person walks only 12 paces before dropping a piece of litter on the ground.
This showed us that actively caring for one's environment would be a key lesson for these escalators. To reinforce this lesson, our team conducted a walk with each of the classes around their own neighborhood.
Our students encouraged the kids to hold on to their trash until they could properly dispose of it, while also solidifying the fact that gummy bears and animal crackers don't actually belong in the wild.
To expand their global perspective, we partnered with the School of Hope in Huehuetenango, Guatemala, allowing the kids from both cities to learn about each other.
The two groups of students send letters and hand-drawn pictures to each other, sharing some of their favorite things and establishing a connection that helps them understand they're not alone.
54% of Rochester students, when asked if they felt like they mattered to people in their community, were unsure or disagreed with the statement completely.
We work within the city of Rochester to show these kids that they do matter, that they are important, and that they can make a positive change in their community. From kindergarten to high school graduation and beyond, these kids have value.
Here's what some of the escalators had to say after the program.
I used to get in trouble a lot, but the college students helped me to calm down.
Kids used to tease me a lot because I'm bigger than all of them, but during Escalate, I made friends.
The college students listened to me. They cared about me.
Project Escalate supports those among us that are the most vulnerable. We give them positive role models and support systems with the college students to show them they matter.
Although Escalate was developed to show kids that school is a great opportunity, what about those teens who are not on track to graduate, let alone those who are at risk of dropping out right now?
According to our findings in our needs assessment, few Rochester City School District students even consider college an option.
Only 7% take advanced placement classes, and only 5.8% of students are taking college entrance exams.
Our team launched Project Elevate to show teens that they are capable of completing high school and that college is an option, even if they are the first in their families to attend.
This project has 2 phases. During the first phase, we recruit students from neighborhoods of high risk, ensuring that we're reaching those who need it most.
Phase 2 consists of Robert students mentoring the elevators as we help them implement the community outreach projects they designed during Phase 1.
In the past, we've had a 25% success rate in completing Phase 2. While our community was content with this result, we wanted to challenge our teens to do more.
To improve the outcome of Phase 2, we began making changes before the Elevate weekend even took place. The first step was to recruit mentors from Roberts who were committed to a year-long investment.
In order to help these student mentors feel equipped for the road ahead, we provided multiple training sessions prior to the weekend launch.
Then we brought 57 teens to our campus in late October. They were divided into groups and partnered with their student mentors for the weekend.
In their groups, the teens attended an employment workshop, equipping them for job searches and interviews.
Then, local business owners taught entrepreneurship to the teens through a hands-on interactive workshop called BizWorld.
The most anticipated workshop was where the elevators received letters back from their friends in Guatemala.
It's encouraging to see these teens support each other. Each student knows that someone is in their corner, wanting to see them succeed, but who also understands the challenges they face.
These workshops lay a foundation for their success in the immediate future and long term.
This unique experience helped them to see college as a possibility, gave them skills to find and get a job, and showed them how to use their strengths to create opportunity.
The Elevate teams created a 6-month plan detailing what specific actions they would take each month to reach their project goals.
During the initial project planning phase, we realized just how committed they are to talking about the issues that affect their specific communities.
For example, one project focuses on providing better sex education to students in a number of Rochester City schools.
Another team created a project focused on suicide prevention,
while another group collected used books to improve literacy rates in Guatemala.
Right from the beginning, these teens have shown initiative in wanting to better their community. Within a month of the Elevate weekend, 6 of the 7 teams were in their first stages of their projects.
Through a combination of detailed project planning as well as committed mentors to keep the teens accountable, we increased our Phase 2 success rate from 25% to 100%.
This year, we also had several former elevators apply to come back and be mentors for their younger peers.
Unfortunately, a few of these teens were unable to make it to the weekend due to job and college obligations.
But wait, isn't that the whole point of Elevate? Jobs and college?
Yeah, which is why we weren't disappointed. In fact, over 92% of our past elevators are working jobs and going on to college.
In all of these projects, the elevators have been the catalyst for change in their communities. Our Enactus students continue to invest in the lives of these teens, providing accountability and support.
Our work bridging Rochester, New York, and Huehuetenango, Guatemala started 3 years ago through a project we call El Puente, which in Spanish means the bridge.
This year proved to be El Puente's most impactful year to date, as we focused on UN Sustainable Development Goal number 8, creating decent work and economic growth.
We partnered with Story International, a driven group of young adults providing orphans and teen moms in Huehue a greater chance at independence.
Through our needs assessment, we recognized the young adults aging out of the orphanage had a hard time being self-sufficient.
These teens have a lack of personal money management, little job readiness, and few entry-level employment opportunities.
To make the greatest impact, we began our work in Huehue just as we did in Rochester, at the local school. We teach the kids English to improve their job readiness, and we teach them entrepreneurship to broaden their horizons.
We give them skills they need to get a job while also showing them, through entrepreneurship, how they can create their own jobs.
A key component of the work we do in the schools in Huehue is creating a chance for the students in Rochester and Guatemala to connect.
For the past 3 years, some of these kids have been writing back and forth, supporting, mentoring, and empowering each other through difficult times.
We recognize distance can get in the way when creating meaningful relationships. The best mentoring happens in person, face to face.
When we first started our work, bridging Rochester to Huehue, we made some strategic long-term goals that, quite frankly, seemed impossible.
In fact, most people told us these goals were impossible.
I did not say impossible. I just said very unlikely.
This year, those impossible goals became a reality.
In February of this year, we brought 7 Rochester elevators with us to Huehuetenango, Guatemala, to meet some of their long-distance friends.
Most of these teens have never been out of New York, let alone left the United States. This experience opened them up to a whole new perspective,
which was made clear when they audibly gasped as the plane took off.
It's one thing to be taught something, but it's entirely different to experience and understand it.
The best way to fully learn something is to teach it to others. So, over the course of 1 week, the Rochester elevators taught their friends in Guatemala.
Some of our teens worked with the younger children, teaching Escalade and giving them their letters from the Rochester escalators.
Other teens took what they learned from local business owners in Rochester and used those skills to teach BizWorld to the older kids in Guatemala.
I run one of our entrepreneurial projects, and last year I used this knowledge to teach BizWorld in Guatemala. It was so rewarding in February to see the teens teach what they had learned.
In 2016, we launched Fuego Cafe and Story Coffee Roasters to create jobs for orphans aging out of the system who are looking to establish independence.
The older orphans get the chance to work at these businesses, giving them job skills, a source of income, and experience managing their own money.
In June, we helped Fuego Cafe celebrate their 1-year anniversary and launched a second floor to offer lounge spaces and a conference room.
In February, we delivered and installed a commercial grade drip coffee machine at Fuego. This allowed them to expand their menu and broaden their customer base.
These are great indicators of both growth and sustainability for these thriving young businesses.
In Weiwei, mentoring not only happens from kid to kid, but from business to business.
Rochester coffee entrepreneurs have been an asset to the Weiwei staff, providing ongoing coaching and business consultation.
This year, the teens from Story have launched multiple product lines that expand the offerings at Fuego Cafe and the Story Roasters online shop.
They now harvest and sell honey from bees raised at the local school. To continue their commitment to direct trade, they partner with Weiwei cocoa farmers to produce their own chocolate.
The teens are also making and selling their very own munchkins, but this time we are actually talking about donuts.
The Rochester Elevators were inspired by these young entrepreneurs who were the same age as them.
Impressed by their work ethic and creative use of limited resources to change their circumstances, a spark was lit within the Rochester teens.
The teens told us how their lives had been transformed by teaching and leading the kids in Guatemala.
The Rochester Elevators also told us that this was the first time they had talked to a group of friends where everyone's plans included college.
The Elevators came back to Rochester with a desire to stay in school, start businesses, and transform their community in some way.
By focusing on UN goals, quality education, decent work, and economic growth, we've transformed these two communities through projects focused on mentoring.
This year, 16 of our alumni invested into 29 of our Enactus student leaders.
These student leaders mentored 56 kindergartners and 57 teens in the city of Rochester.
Those teens and kindergartners then empowered and supported 39 kindergartners and 42 teens in Huehuetenango, Guatemala.
From inspired youth in Rochester to enterprising teens in Guatemala, from inner city kindergartners to coffee entrepreneurs, they all have strength to offer one another.
Through mentoring, these individuals are encouraged, inspired, and better equipped for the economic challenges and entrepreneurial opportunities ahead.
We are the Enactus team from Roberts Wesleyan College, and we are transforming communities through projects focused on mentoring.
So part of the competition process, after they complete their can't be more than 17-minute presentation, then the judges have the opportunity to ask them any questions they want about what they just talked about. So today, you are our judges. So Kate and Sean have some microphones. What did they talk about that you want to know more about? What questions do you have? And know that don't be embarrassed to ask a question because you only help them represent Roberts Wesleyan College better in competition. So who has a question for our students? Just put your hand right in there. Go ahead, Sean.
Thank you.
So much.
Great job on your presentation. My question is whether you are serving students from more than one city school, and also what plans you may have in the future to expand the impact to really impact the district.
That's a great question. So we have quite a few partners within the city of Rochester, so that way we can reach multiple different schools. So some of our partners are Young Men's Leadership Academy, Rochester Family Mission. So a lot of the high schools that these students attend, they are attending this church too, like Rochester Family Mission, so we can reach a lot of different kids.
And we do want to expand to further schools and to have more partners in the future. And this year we really had focused on improving phase 2 and our results with that.
Great job, guys. Brought me to tears a couple of times. What would you say is the biggest challenge of bringing those high school students from Rochester down to Tenango?
Passports were definitely a struggle. We actually had to, because you need both parents if you are underage to get a passport, we actually had to mail a dad who was in North Carolina the form to sign it and send it back to us so that we were able to take one of our students with us.
And I think another thing too, when they get down there, helping them realize they are going to have an impact on these kids. They just need to be a little bit vulnerable and open themselves up and treat these people like they are their friends, because that's exactly what the relationship is. It's a friendship.
Just to add on to that, I know it's not really exactly what you asked, but it was amazing to see these kids really open up when they did go down to Tenango, Guatemala. Some of the kids were really shy, they were closed up, they didn't really want to talk. But then after about a week of being down there, these kids were leading the small group discussions at the end of the day and directing the questions and saying, how has this impacted your day? How have you been impacted by this trip? So it was amazing to see them really come out of their shell and become essentially the leaders.
Great job, guys. Have you had the opportunity to track at all through from Escalate whether or not those students have stayed in school? And if you haven't had that opportunity yet, what is your plan, your sustainability plan, and your assessment measurements for the Escalate program?
That's a great question. So Emily actually was the one who did all of the follow-ups for us. So she called families of all of the Elevate students. And of those students she was able to reach, there were the 92%. The 8% that aren't accounted for had either left the district or we don't have their contact information anymore. It was changed. So they could still be in school. We just don't have any way to confirm that.
And in terms of Escalate, we aren't actually allowed to keep track of the students. According to FERPA laws, we're not allowed to do that, but we do hand out exit surveys to the kids and the teachers themselves. And we have, one of the key pieces of it is we do have a relationship with the teachers, so we are able to kind of get a general sense of what they do, as well as a couple of our Roberts students actually tutor some of the 3rd and 4th graders. So once they get a bit older, we're able to kind of check up on them for that.
Good job, guys. How do you get funding for the Guatemala? How do you get to go and the elevators to go? How do you get the money?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. That was also another challenge on trying to get these kids to Guatemala. Personally, I run a business full circle through Enactus. We make jewelry, and we were able to commit $700 towards the elevators in-country expenses.
Our alumni are also huge contributors. We started the Fuego Cafe in Guatemala, and our alumni donated $28,000 towards that. So they also had donated a large sum of money for these students to go down to Guatemala as well.
There was a great presentation. I wonder if each of you has been down to Weiwei, and on a personal level, what would you say is the greatest change it made to you personally besides all the good work you're doing, but to you personally?
Thank you for your question. I have been down to Huehuetenango, Guatemala twice now, and I'm actually returning for the summer for a 3-month internship. And I would say the biggest change in me was realizing how generous people are there to give when they don't have that, what I would think, a whole lot to give themselves. And it was really just life-changing to see them give so much and have so little.
I've also been down to Huehue, and I'll be going down this summer as well. I'll be actually flying from Huehue to Kansas City for nationals, so we're just hoping that I don't get sick in Huehue. But I think one of the greatest things I learned is the power of vulnerability. And these kids who have, most of them are at risk, most of them have gone through some form of abuse. They're willing to open up and to be vulnerable with you and learn about you and share their story with you as well. And that was such a powerful thing that connected us in really a deeper level that I think, I believe is a biblical calling the Lord has for us.
The rest of us hasn't gone yet.
Great job. I'm back here behind the sound booth.
Yeah, I haven't gone down there yet.
I'm back here behind the sound booth. Just wondering what kind of tracking you've done on persistence and graduation for the Huehue kids.
That's a great question. The focuses for the elevators in Rochester and Huehue are very different. So one of our main focuses for the students in Huehue is helping them be able to have the skills to create their own jobs. So they're not as focused on graduating high school as much as they are being able to support themselves and their families when they are to that point of needing to do that. So we really just go down and try and help them, put them through workshops and teach them different ways that they can hopefully someday create their own businesses, which some of them already are through the honey and the munchkins, and even they're developing their own chocolate. So it's really just kind of developing them in that sense.
And the environments within these two countries are very different. In Guatemala, kids aren't expected to graduate necessarily from high school. They aren't expected to go on to college. Whereas here in the United States, income is increased by 45% simply by graduating. And so that is our main focus here, whereas we have a different focus of entrepreneurship in Guatemala.
What advice would you give someone starting college about Enactus?
Don't be shy. You really just need to be brave and get your feet wet a little bit. There are a lot of different avenues and projects that you can get involved with. So if you're a new student and you really wanted to try and get involved in Enactus, you need to just be brave and confident and not afraid to ask questions, I would say, because that's the biggest piece is you need to be willing to get involved, and then you're just going to be welcomed in.
And the great thing about Enactus is that I can truly say that they have become a family to me. So I was a transfer student last year. I was a junior. And right from the get-go, I heard about Enactus, and I wasn't really sure about it, so I went for one meeting, and the very first meeting I went there, somebody was recruiting me for their project and said, hey, I'm starting this project, like, let's get involved together, you'll be like my co-leader or something, and I just was signing my name away on all these sheets, but little did I know that these people really do care about me, and they became my family, and it's through this environment, this dynamic, that we're able to accomplish such amazing things.
So, quick question about Rochester and Guatemala. So, comparing to those, do they have enough money?
Yeah, so that's a great question. In Guatemala, they have less access to resources. Like, for example, for the trip, we brought the elevators down because we were able to raise that money here, and it would have been a little bit different in Guatemala to do so. You're welcome.
I'm sure you have more questions, but I'm not going to let you ask them because some of you have places you need to go, and many of you are probably hungry. I do have instructions for all of our preview day guests, and that is that we have some instructions for you. So for our preview day guests, please remain seated where you are. For everyone else, thank you so much for your support. I hope to see you tonight.